There is a country with more pyramids than Egypt, but the world forgot it even existed. That country is Sudan. It holds over 200 ancient pyramids, while Egypt has only 118. Yet when you think of ancient Africa, your mind travels straight to Egypt. But what if the real story lies further south? What if there was a kingdom so powerful that it conquered Egypt itself and then vanished from every history book on earth? To find the answer, we must travel to a land most people have never truly seen. Welcome to Sudan. Here, two mighty rivers collide, giving birth to the greatest river that built entire civilizations. 3,000 years ago, a powerful kingdom rose from these golden deserts. They built pyramids that still stand today. More than any other nation, their kings became pharaohs. Their empire stretched across 2 continents. Yet almost no one knows their story, because this nation's heritage is disappearing. Ancient tombs are buried by sand. Sacred sites are drowned by rising waters. And priceless treasures are lost to war. So come with me on this journey, before time runs out. We will discover forgotten pyramids, hidden cities, and untouched waters. This is the story no one ever told you. Now, let the forgotten finally speak. The kingdom the world forgot. Before we explore Sudan's wonders, we must first understand what was lost. For most of recorded history, Sudan was not a footnote. It was a headline. One ancient kingdom ruled here for over 1,000 years, longer than the Roman Empire itself. Its pharaohs sat on Egypt's throne. Its traders connected Africa to distant lands across the seas. And its pyramids, more than 200 of them, lined the river valley like a royal spine stretching south. But when European explorers arrived in the 19th century, they had already decided what mattered. Egypt was ancient and worthy of study. Everything south was simply dismissed as imitation. The pyramids of Sudan were ignored, the great kings were forgotten, and the world moved on, staring at one place while another crumbled in silence. Yet Sudan was once Africa's largest country. 2.5 million square kilometers of desert, savanna, and coastline. Over 100 languages are still spoken here, each carrying traditions that stretch back millennia. This is not a small place with a small history. This is a crossroads of civilizations, hidden in plain sight. Sudan's tragedy is not that it has no wonders. Its tragedy is that the world never looked. But the pyramids do not care about fame. They simply stand, waiting for someone to remember. And that is exactly where our journey begins. Not with Egypt's pyramids, but with Sudan's. More numerous, more mysterious, and far more forgotten. Rising from golden sands, they have waited 2,000 years for the world to finally notice. The pyramids that outnumber Egypt. In the desert north of the capital, where sand stretches to every horizon, something impossible rises. Not one pyramid, not 10. Over 200 pyramids, clustered together, their steep angles cutting against the sky like stone daggers. This was the heart of an ancient kingdom, and this was where its rulers came to rest for eternity. These pyramids are unlike anything in Egypt. They are smaller, most rising between 20 and 30 meters. They are steeper, with sharp angles that give them an almost aggressive silhouette. And they are far more numerous, because here, pyramids were not reserved only for kings. Queens had pyramids. Nobles had pyramids. The afterlife was not a privilege of the few, it was a right of the worthy. These structures were built between 300 BCE and 350 CE, centuries after Egypt's Great Pyramid Age had ended. Builders used sandstone and mud brick, constructing stepped layers before smoothing them into their distinctive shape. Beneath each pyramid lies a burial chamber filled with artifacts, inscriptions, and offerings for the journey beyond. But many of these tombs were looted in the 1830s by a treasure hunter, their golden treasures now scattered across European museums. Imagine standing here at sunrise, the pyramids glowing amber and gold as light spills across the desert. There are no crowds, no ticket lines, just you, the sand, and 200 monuments to a forgotten empire. The carvings on these pyramids reveal a unique religious fusion. They depict gods from neighboring lands, but also a lion-headed god found nowhere else on Earth. This was not imitation, this was creation, a civilization confident enough to build its own beliefs. But this was not the only royal burial ground. Further north, an even older site holds the tombs of kings who once ruled Egypt itself. Their pyramids tell a different story, one of conquest, faith, and alignment with the stars, where kings aligned with the sun. Before the great necropolis we just visited, there was an even older burial ground. Established around 670 BCE, this site became the resting place for royalty when earlier tombs could no longer hold new kings. Over 20 pyramids rise from the sands here, smaller than others, but historically far more significant, because buried beneath them are the rulers who conquered Egypt itself. The most prominent pyramid belongs to a king whose name should be as famous as Tutankhamun, but it is not. He ruled during a time when Kushite kings sat on Egypt's throne. His empire stretched from the southern deserts all the way to the Nile Delta. His pyramid was the largest ever built in Sudan, and it was carefully aligned so the sun would rise directly over its peak on the Egyptian New Year. This was not just architecture. This was cosmic power, a king declaring his unity with the gods. But time has not been kind to this sacred place. One royal tomb now lies completely submerged, flooded by rising groundwater beneath the desert. Archaeologists have used underwater techniques to explore its burial chamber, revealing artifacts that shed light on ancient beliefs about death and resurrection. At dawn, shadows stretch across these pyramids like fingers reaching from the past. The silence is absolute. You are standing where kings were buried, and almost no one knows. This site represents the height of Kushite power, when Sudan's rulers were not just equals of Egypt, but its pharaohs. Their dynasty was brief, less than a century. But it proves something the world later forgot. Africa's greatest civilizations did not end at Egypt's border. They extended south into lands that history books would later ignore. But pyramids were only part of this kingdom's legacy. At the base of a sacred mountain, the Kushites built something even more ambitious. A city of temples, a throne of gods, a place so holy that both Egyptians and Kushites called it the southern home of their greatest deity, the Mountain of the Gods. In northern Sudan, a giant mountain rises straight out of the desert. It stands 100 meters tall, all alone, like a guard watching over the land. You can see it from miles away. And for over 3,000 years, People believed this was one of the holiest places on earth. Ancient Egyptians thought the mountain's peak looked like a cobra, the sacred snake that pharaohs wore on their crowns. So when a powerful pharaoh conquered this land around 1450 BCE, he made a bold claim. He said this mountain was the southern home of the king of all gods. That made it just as holy as Egypt's greatest temple. But the Kushites took this belief even further. When they rose to power, they built their capital right at the base of this mountain. They said the gods had chosen them, and they turned this place into the spiritual heart of their growing empire. Today, archaeologists are still uncovering what lies beneath the sand. They have found hidden streets, they have found ancient palaces, and carved into the mountain itself, they have found secret rooms, dark chambers where priests once prayed by torchlight. At sunset, this place becomes magical. The rocks glow orange and red. Shadows stretch across the sand like fingers from the past. And below the mountain, the ruins of old temples sit quietly, waiting for the world to remember. This sacred site stayed important for over 1,500 years. Empires came and went, but the mountain never lost its power. Today, it is protected as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, one of Africa's most important religious places. But this was not the only great temple built along the river. Further north, another pharaoh created something even more incredible. A temple filled with royal celebrations and writings that changed everything we know about ancient beliefs. The temple at the edge of empire. Long ago, when Egypt was the mightiest kingdom on earth, one pharaoh looked toward the south. He saw lands filled with gold, brave soldiers, and great opportunity. So he decided to build something incredible. A temple so grand, it would rival anything in Egypt itself. This became the southernmost temple of the entire Egyptian empire. It was called Soleb, and it was designed to make everyone who saw it feel small. Huge stone gates welcomed visitors at the entrance. A wide courtyard led to a great hall filled with tall, beautifully carved columns. On the walls, artists carved scenes of royal festivals, celebrations of the pharaoh's power and blessing from the gods. This was more than a place to pray. It was a message, Egypt's strength stamped into the heart of Africa. But here is the most surprising part of all. Hidden among the carvings is one inscription that changed history forever. It mentions a name, one of the oldest known references to a god who would later become the center of a major world religion. Scholars are still amazed by this discovery today. Now, this mighty temple lies in peaceful ruin. Broken columns still stand tall against the blue desert sky. Carved pictures slowly wear away in the dry, dusty air. And the beautiful red stone lions that once guarded this place now sit in museums across the world. The temple that once shouted Egypt's glory now whispers it, softly and beautifully. Over the centuries, different rulers left their marks here. One pharaoh changed the temple to honor a new god. Another brought back the old beliefs. Each chapter of history is carved right into the stone, layer upon layer. This place teaches us something powerful. Empires build great things, but the things they build outlast them. What was made to show strength now teaches us about time and change. But Sudan's wonders do not stop with temples and pyramids. The land itself holds incredible power. A mighty river gave life to entire civilizations. A vast desert still hides ancient secrets. And that life-giving river, the very reason all of this exists, is exactly where we are heading next. The river that made everything. Every great civilization in Sudan owes its life to one thing: water. And in Sudan, water has only one name: the Nile. This is not just any river. This is the longest river on Earth, stretching 6,650 kilometers through some of the harshest land on the planet. And right here in Sudan, it is reborn. At the capital city, something extraordinary happens. One river flows down from the south, calm and pale, carrying water from distant lakes and swamps. Another river rushes down from the east, dark and powerful, filled with rich soil from mountain highlands. And right here, these two rivers meet. Two sources become one. Two waters merge into a single mighty current, flowing 3,000 more kilometers all the way to the sea. This is the confluence, the exact place where Sudan's identity is born. For thousands of years, the Nile flooded its banks every season. It left behind rich, dark soil, the only fertile land in a sea of endless desert. This gift of nature allowed farms to grow. It allowed cities to rise. It allowed empires to flourish for over 5,000 years. Without the Nile, there would be no pyramids, no ancient kingdoms, no Sudan, just empty sand. From high above, the confluence looks magical. The dark water of one river meets the pale water of the other. For several kilometers, they flow side by side, two ribbons of color refusing to mix. It looks like the river is deciding what to become. The Nile is more than just geography. It is identity. Every village, every ancient temple, every pyramid, they all follow the river's path. To understand Sudan, you must first understand the Nile. They are completely inseparable. But the Nile is not Sudan's only natural wonder. Far to the east, where the desert meets the sea, lies a coastline the world has almost forgotten. Crystal waters, untouched reefs, marine life rarely seen anywhere else. This is one of the last wild places on Earth. The sea the world forgot. Most travelers know the Red Sea through Egypt's busy resorts or Jordan's famous beaches. But the longest stretch of Red Sea coastline actually belongs to Sudan. Over 750 kilometers of shore, and almost no one visits. This is not neglect. This is preservation by accident. A marine world left untouched because everyone was looking somewhere else. Beneath these waters lies a secret garden. Coral reefs stretch for miles, healthy, colorful, and bursting with life. Over 1,200 species of fish swim through these warm waters. More than 200 types of coral build incredible structures on the seabed. And because there are almost no tourists, this ecosystem remains in a condition most places lost long ago. This coastline was once a vital trade route, connecting Africa with Arabia, India, and lands beyond. One ancient port city served as the main hub for centuries, a town built entirely from coral stone. Today, that city lies in beautiful ruin, its old buildings slowly crumbling into the sea, its history being reclaimed by nature. Imagine diving into water so clear you can see 30 meters down. Schools of fish swirl around towers of coral. Rays glide silently across the sandy bottom. And above you, the surface shimmers like liquid glass, separating you from a quiet desert coastline where nothing moves. This is what the world's reefs looked like before humans arrived, and in Sudan, it still exists. Local conservation efforts are working hard to protect these waters. Fishermen become guides. Traditional knowledge becomes scientific data. The reefs stay healthy because the people who depend on them help keep them alive. This hidden reef, flourishing in obscurity, beautiful because it was forgotten, represents Sudan itself. A wonder that exists precisely because the world never came looking. But Sudan's natural treasures are not only underwater. In the southeast, where grasslands meet wetlands, lies one of Africa's largest wildlife sanctuaries. Here, lions still roam freely. Elephants still walk ancient migration paths. And the delicate balance between nature and people is tested every single day. The sanctuary that survives. In Sudan's southeastern corner, where the country meets Ethiopia, the desert gives way to something unexpected. A vast national park stretches across over 10,000 square kilometers of grasslands, wetlands, and seasonal rivers. It is one of the largest protected areas in all of Africa. Established in 1935, it was recognized by UNESCO in 1979 for its global importance. This is not the Sudan of popular imagination. Here, lions stalk through tall, golden grass. Leopards hunt silently at the edge of acacia forests. Herds of antelope move gracefully across wide floodplains. And overhead, 160 species of birds fill the sky. Cranes, vultures, pelicans, and guinea fowl circling above the seasonal marshes. This is wild Africa, surviving against all odds. The park's life depends on two seasonal rivers that carve through the land. They create small lakes and wetlands that become lifelines during the dry season. When the rains arrive, everything transforms. Dry savanna becomes lush green floodplain, drawing wildlife from across the region. But when the dry season returns, water becomes dangerously scarce. Survival depends on reaching the few permanent pools scattered across the landscape. At sunrise, mist rises slowly from the marshes. A herd of antelope moves carefully toward a waterhole. Somewhere hidden in the tall grass, a predator waits. The only sounds are birdsong and wind rustling through the savannah. This is what Africa looked like before borders, before poaching, before encroachment. And here, pieces of that ancient world still remain. But protecting this place is a daily struggle. Nearby communities depend on the park's resources: grazing land, water, and wood. Balancing human needs with nature is never simple, yet efforts are underway. Buffer zones, community partnerships, and eco-tourism projects that give local people a reason to help the park survive. The waterhole, where life gathers, where predator meets prey, represents this fragile balance. Everything depends on water, everything competes for it, and the park's future depends on whether that balance can hold. But Sudan's wonders are not only found in nature. In the capital city, a museum once protected 5,000 years of African history. Then war came, and the treasures began to disappear. The museum that was lost. Not all of Sudan's wonders can be visited. Some of them are gone. In the capital city, a great museum once stood, the largest collection of African history outside Egypt. Established in 1971, its halls held treasures spanning thousands of years. Ancient mummies rested in glass cases. Golden jewelry sparkled under soft lights. Statues and pottery told stories of forgotten kingdoms. And in the gardens outside, rescued temples stood peacefully among the trees, saved from rising waters decades ago. For over 50 years, this museum was the keeper of Sudan's memory. Then, in April 2023, civil war reached the capital. The museum sat near key military positions. It became a casualty of the fighting. By June, armed forces had taken control of the building. Reports of systematic looting began to spread. Gold artifacts vanished into the chaos. Ancient relics disappeared overnight. Some treasures later appeared on international black markets. Others may be lost forever. The collection had included priceless pieces from civilizations that thrived for over 3,000 years. It held mummies dating back to 2500 BCE. It preserved writings in the oldest known script of sub-Saharan Africa, and it protected items rescued during an international campaign in the 1960s, when teams raced to save history before rising dam waters swallowed it. Now, so much of this is damaged or gone. Before the war, the museum garden was a peaceful sanctuary. Visitors wandered through 5,000 years of history in a single afternoon. Today, that garden is a ghost, scarred by conflict, emptied of treasures, waiting for peace. This loss belongs not only to Sudan, it belongs to the entire world. These artifacts told the story of humanity itself. Their destruction reminds us that heritage is fragile, and the stories of the forgotten can be silenced forever. The empty display case, where a treasure once sat, now holds only absence. War takes more than lives. It takes memory itself. But Sudan's story is not only about loss, it is also about survival. In the far north, where the river crosses from Egypt, an ancient town still stands. It has survived floods, displacement, and the drowning of its ancestral lands. And its survival teaches us what cannot be destroyed. The town that refused to drown. At Sudan's northern tip sits a town that should not exist. It was once a thriving Nubian settlement, home to ancient temples and traditions stretching back millennia. Then, in the 1960s, a massive dam created one of the largest lakes on Earth. Rising waters drowned everything. Villages, temples, and graveyards vanished beneath the surface. Over 50,000 people were forced to leave their ancestral lands forever. The original town now lies underwater, but the people rebuilt further south, carrying memories of what was lost. Today, this town is a quiet gateway, the last stop before crossing into Egypt. Its streets are dusty, its markets still trade goods exchanged for centuries, and its people tell stories of a homeland they can never visit again. The Nubian people have not forgotten. They keep alive languages and traditions older than the pyramids. The submerged village exists now only in memory, visible in old photographs and the hearts of survivors. The town was drowned, but its people survived. And in Sudan, survival itself is victory. Sudan is not waiting to be discovered. It is waiting to be remembered. For 5,000 years, civilizations built pyramids and shaped Africa. Their achievements rivaled Egypt's. Then the world forgot. We came looking for wonders. We found pyramids, never taught in school. We found reefs that survived because no one came. Attention is power. Egypt got fame. Sudan got silence. But Sudan endures. The pyramids still rise. The Nile still flows. Egypt has 118 pyramids. Sudan has over 200. Now you see what was lost and what still remains. From ancient pyramids to the meeting of two great rivers. From sacred mountains to coral gardens beneath the sea. From lost museum treasures to drowned villages rebuilt with hope. We have traveled through a nation history forgot. This is Sudan, not Egypt's shadow, but its equal, its rival, its untold story. Wonder is not about fame, it is about what endures. If this journey opened your eyes, subscribe for more forgotten wonders. Like this video to help Sudan's story reach others. What wonder surprised you most? Tell us in the comments. Sudan has been waiting for someone to finally see. You just did.